Good morning and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And with that, let's get into honoring God with our body. Please guard our mind and our thoughts. God, help me fix my thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. So I will think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. God, please protect our ears and help us listen to your voice. God, help me be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. God, please protect our eyes from sin's damage. God, I make a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully. God, please speak life over my mouth. God, set a guard over my mouth. Lord, keep watch over the doors of my lips. God, please help our hands to serve generously. God, help me to do good to everyone, and especially to those who belong to our family in the faith. God, please protect our reproductive organs. Help us to honor you, God, with purity. God, help me to honor you with your body. And God, please protect our feet as we walk along your path. God, let your word be a lamp for my feet and a light on my path. And if you are joining us for the first time this morning, thank you so much for joining us here at Unfiltered Vision News. That is a statement of faith or prayer, so to speak, that we like to say every morning just to set our hearts and our minds right before we get into all of this wonderful news that we've got going on, right? So with that, let's get into it. It's kind of jam-packed today, but I wanted to quickly go over the flock safety cameras are more secure for a more secure society or an invasion of privacy. And I think it's a little bit of both. I lived in a city where we did have surveillance, but it wasn't abused. It was actually used to make sure that the residents were safe. There was a time where there was someone who had actually been convicted of child predatory behavior, and he was in an area of the city where he was not supposed to be. And due to that surveillance, the police were able to get him, apprehend him, and remove him from the city. Let's see, boundaries, right? They were able to take him outside of the city. You're not supposed to be here. You're already convicted of a crime. You're not supposed to be next to the elementary, junior high, or high school, right? You got to go. And the problem with these cameras is that there are flawed humans that are behind the cameras. It's not so much the cameras, it's the flawed humans behind the cameras. So if we're going to use something like this, we do have to make sure that the people that are using this technology, they're not abusing the technology, right? Because we've heard a lot of people saying they're following exes and, doing other kind of weird things. I'm like, you know, and of course, computers aren't perfect. They're going to make mistakes. Somebody was mistakenly apprehended for a crime that they didn't commit, right? So it's that kind of stuff that people are really up in arms about these flood cameras. But we've been being surveilled for decades. So I think it's a matter of people actually knowing that they're being monitored that's really bringing all of this out. But I'm really hoping that we can, if you're going to use it properly and not abuse it. With that, let's get into our trending topics on X. So we've got a Massachusetts governor signing a bill easing late-term abortion limits. Early COVID vaccine claims resurface in online clips, and RFK announces steps to curb food additives and boost real foods. Okay, that's a good thing. So here we go. So the Prioritizing Patient Access to Care Act removes prior restrictions on abortions after 24 weeks, which has been limited to cases like protecting the mother's life, health, or fetal diagnoses. Healy and supporters say it helps families in tough medical spots avoid out-of-state travel, effective in 90 days, placing Massachusetts among the 10 states without gestational limits. Online reactions split sharply, with figures like Riley Gaines calling for celebration, calling the celebration sinister, and others sharing images of viable premature babies to highlight concerns over late-term procedures. Okay, here's the problem. There can be complications with pregnancy. It happens. It is what it is. The problem is the classification. Now, why are you classifying if a baby dies prematurely or the mother's in danger and they have to take the baby early? That's not an abortion. That's kind of core for par for the course. When you're pregnant, okay, things can happen. This is why you have these procedures in place. And so the life of the mother is okay and the life of the child is okay in some instances. But that's not what you're doing. You're saying it's okay to abort a baby after 24 weeks. That's what you're saying. And you're using these other procedures as an excuse to do that. That's it. That's where we are. And people may not like me saying it like that, but that's what it is. Because there's always been ectopic pregnancies and they've had to take care of it. It's never been classified as an abortion. It's an ectopic pregnancy that can kill you if it bursts or whatever. So what are we talking about? Yeah. Yeah. It's really crazy. Yes. So this is a 34-week-old baby outside the womb. And this is what Democrats are celebrating killing. And somebody could have an abortion on a child like this. And it still goes back to what's happening with the body parts. Are y'all still doing your little black market thing? Because that was really profitable for, Planned Parenthood. And they were bragging about it, all the cars that they could buy and all the stuff that they could do. And then sick doctors making the fetuses dance. Like, it's just disgusting what some other humans have been doing. I'm just telling you right now, it's gross. All right. Massachusetts, you're failing on this one. I got to give you a thumbs down. Okay, the next story we're going to get to is early COVID vaccine claims resurface in online clips. So I think now they're bringing things back around again. After all this exposure, now they're bringing things back around. So social media posts compile statements from 2021 claiming vaccination prevented COVID, backed by Pfizer's 95% trial efficacy against infection before variants like Delta emerged. As breakthrough cases rose, messaging shifted to focus on reducing severe illness and death rather than full protection. Some users highlight the change in expectations, while others note trials were under controlled conditions and no vaccine guarantees zero infections for everyone. Well, I get that, but that's not what they said. And they lied to everybody. And with vaccines, and we're going to talk a little bit more about vaccines today, here's the thing. Nothing is 100% guaranteed ever. And if anybody 100% guarantees you anything, they are opening themselves up to a lawsuit. They should lawyer up today. Okay? Because you can't. You can say it can help you. This might assist you. But when you are guaranteeing things at 100%, you are opening yourself up to suit. And in my opinion, a lot of people that were saying a lot of crazy things back then, they should have lawsuits against them because they terrorized the public with this. To me, it wasn't helpful. It was terrorization. It really was. They terrorized everybody. I don't want to watch this, but I guess we should. Let me see. I gotta check my time. And good mornings, bud. Okay, I'm checking my time, making sure because there's some other things I want to get into. But we all lived through this. Okay, so that happened. All right, next thing I wanted to get into, RFK announces steps to curb food additives and boost real foods. So the Trump administration's Make America Healthy Again initiative includes a proposed FDA rule requiring companies to notify regulators about GRAS ingredients, closing a loophole for additives without prior review. Kellogg's is dropping artificial colors from Fruit Loops and Apple Jacks a year early, switching to natural options like fruit and vegetable juices. Officials also advanced a definition of ultra processed foods linked to chronic diseases, while school lunch efforts bring back whole milk through new farm to school grants. I'm glad things need to be changing. And, the whole thing about the cereals overseas Our cereals, the way we make them here, are banned overseas. They get real fruit juice and vegetable juices in their cereals. And no, they're not as bright and colorful and all that stuff because it's actual real food. What are we talking about? But thank you, RFK, for getting it done, sir. Now let's get to the meat of the program. And this is Tell It All Tuesday. Thank you guys again for joining me. So, breaking President Trump signs executive order reducing the number of childhood vaccines recommended in the United States. So, America's recommended more childhood vaccines than any other peer nation, and even twice as many doses as some European countries. So, this little picture right here, as you can see, in 1996, there were what looks like no, it says 7 doses. Now they're up to 22 doses once the baby comes out. Like, what are y'all doing? It's just gross. It really is. But let's check out what President Trump's got to say.
Recommended more childhood vaccines than any peer nation, and even twice as many doses as some European countries, and even more than that. In many cases, we were requiring 72 jabs for our beautiful, healthy, lovely, delicate little children, including giving the hepatitis B shot to infants and newborns on top of many other vaccinations. The hepatitis B shouldn't be given until they're 14 or 15 years old. They were given early. Effective immediately, my administration is recognizing gold standard childhood vaccine recommendations for only 11 core vaccinations against the most serious and dangerous diseases, along with the MMR, which hopefully will be split up. You have the MMR, we want it in 3 separate vaccinations given at separate times. Together, there could be a possibility they're quite lethal, and separately, it looks like they are not at all lethal, but just very effective. So the MMR, we want to have separate visits, separate times. The vaccine being broken into 3 separate single doses, and vaccines being administered in separate visits. For example, at 1 year, you should have 5 separate visits for vaccines rather than getting them all in the same day. And I saw this early on, and I've seen proof of it, where they have a vaccination that looks like the size of a bottle of soda poured into a little child's body, and bad things happen in too many cases, because this is an explosion. This is an epidemic. So at year 1, you should have 5 separate visits for vaccines rather than giving them all in the same day. Very importantly, vaccinations for hepatitis B, COVID-19, and influenza, among others, are no longer recommended for all children. In addition, this executive order directs the Attorney General to advance legal challenges against states that violate children's rights to religious or medical vaccination exemptions, for the exemptions. Other countries with high vaccination rates without mandates for school. Now, what we do is, other countries have very high vaccination rates, and they have not had, and they don't have, without mandates to school. Parents can still choose to give their children all of the vaccinations if they wish.
Yeah, that's it. So what's happening is it's going to be fewer vaccines. So everybody needs to calm down, cool your jets. It's going to be fewer. I like that they're bringing up the MMR because some individuals can't handle all 3 doses at the same time. He just said, he says, not that they're not effective, but when you give it to a human being all at the same time, everybody reacts differently. And we're going to get into that. So let's put a pin in that, as they should say, for a second, and then we'll get right back to it. But of course, this is Tell It All Tuesday, so we have to go off the rails here for a second because I came across some videos that I wanted to share with you guys.
Ronald McDonald, not the one you remember from the commercials. The smell of fresh paint, the mystery of 16 missing children. In the late 1890s, a wandering entertainer named Ronald McDonald traveled between county fairs across the American Midwest. He wore a bright red suit, a dark waistcoat, white gloves, and a painted smile that stretched unnaturally wide. He called his tent the Happy Meal. Children entered for free. Inside, the lights were dim. The air smelled of warm bread and fresh varnish. Every child received a small paper box, red with a yellow emblem. Inside was a soft bread roll, a slice of cold meat, a hand-carved wooden toy, and a small card that read, "Eat up, come back tomorrow." Parents suspected nothing, but the children left strangely quiet, their faces pale. Some refused to eat, others stopped speaking completely. By the end of the summer, 16 children had disappeared from towns where Ronald's tent had appeared. When authorities searched his wagon, they found almost nothing, only rolls of red and yellow fabric and dozens of unused paper boxes. Years later, an advertising company searching for inspiration purchased an old carnival poster. They kept the name, they kept the colors, they kept the smile, and ever since, people have unknowingly recognized the face of a supposed killer.
Can't make that stuff up. And the things that we know about McDonald's food. Yeah, kind of makes a little bit more sense to me now. All right, and moving on.
Of the country, the Bahamians have their country, and it is our country, and we could decide how we want to run our fair.
Take a little bit too long. From they burn the Bahamian flag, they're supposed to be deported out here.
How our government could give them privilege to have Flag Day in the Bahamas. On top of that, they've actually disfigured our flag by burning it. They also had parades for their various elitists in the Bahamas. When most of them come here, they've already gotten everything free. I mean, and some of them are they owned restaurants and fruit stands and all of this stuff. Why not have them pay their own ticket back?
When you come into this country legal, then you have your children, they born here illegal. You understand? It becomes now a burden on the country that they exist in.
Additionally, there are many Bahamians who feel that governments of the day took far too long to deal with this immigration problem, which has enabled illegal migrants to feel that they are more than equal in this country.
Oh, did y'all hear all of that? They're upset because the Haitians have come in and taken what? Why are you upset? Well, why are you upset? Because see, you expect America to just take it, right? We're supposed to just take it. We're not supposed to say nothing. We're not supposed to get upset. And the Bahamians are like, they shouldn't be here. They shouldn't be doing that here in our country. Then every Bahamian that is on American soil, I want that same energy. I want y'all to have that same energy. Okay? Always. Because now we know we need to have it. Because it's not just people from Haiti. It's people from Holland. It's people from New Zealand. It's people from all over the world that come here illegally and think they just have the right to stay. I'm going to tell you now, you need to go home today. And if you get caught, and I'm kind of hoping you get caught and have to be deported, because that means you can never come back again. And I'm down with that. Because if you don't leave now to do it to come here the right way, you don't ever deserve to step your foot on American soil. That's where I'm at. Get out. Get off the soil. Get out the country. Nobody wants you here. You've worn out your welcome. We're over it. But I thought it was very fascinating to see how Bahamians reacted to Haitians coming into their country illegally, getting resources and being propped up over the Bahamian citizens. I just found it fascinating. Now let's get into more of just understanding the vaccines.
A story parents who want to pay very close attention to here as you're waking up. A new executive order from President Donald Trump is calling for changes to childhood vaccine recommendations. So if your child is heading back to school in just a couple of weeks, doctors and state leaders say the science has not changed, and neither have Connecticut's requirements. Your reporter Anna Stansfield live outside the Department of Health with all these details for us. Good morning, Anna.
Okay, good morning. With the first day of school for most kids here in Connecticut just a few weeks away, we know this is a big story for parents and their kids as well, as a lot of them are waking up this morning with the same questions. What does this mean for my kids' back to school vaccine schedule? This new executive order comes after the president's long-held belief that certain shots should be spaced out. It recommends separating the measles, mumps, and rubella, or MMR, vaccine into 3 different shots given at 3 different appointments. His administration says this change aims to generate trust in vaccine-hesitant parents, but the order is just a recommendation, meaning states still have control over school vaccine requirements, and leaders say nothing will change in Connecticut. In a statement, Governor Ned Lamont said, quote, the dangerous executive order signed by President Trump lacks scientific backing, revives a discredited link between childhood vaccines and autism, and undermines public health objectives. Doctors in our state are reacting too.
The vaccine schedule, as is, we know, is safe and we know is very effective. By splitting vaccines, delaying vaccines, and really.
Now, here's my thing. A lot of these doctors and scientists, it's this, it's that. Okay, so are you making a guarantee? Because if you are, and somebody gets injured, then you're held liable and responsible. So I want every parent out here to listen to this person. If you live in Connecticut and something happens to your kid, you get to come after this person who told you it is completely safe and effective. That's all I'm saying. Nothing is 100% guaranteed. Nothing.
Creating your own vaccine schedule, it creates numerous hazards, including
no, it doesn't.
Making you wonder whether the vaccines are as effective.
And the reason why I say no, it doesn't, because they don't have any studies to prove that. They just say things. Where's your study? Where's your proof? They don't have it because they don't study it. It's not documented, but we're going to get into that.
And this morning, as you get ready for that first day of school here in just a few weeks, you will still need to make sure that your child's proof of immunization has been sent to the school before they get back into the classroom, just like you would any other year. I'm your reporter live in Hartford.
And you know, what's really fascinating and amazing, see, what a lot of people don't understand is when we're going through the whole COVID issue, and then we had a huge influx of people from other countries that did come here illegally, claiming to be asylum seekers, refugees, so on and so forth. They were actually told they didn't have to vaccinate their children at all. Why was that done? And that was done under executive order by President Biden. Nobody fought back against it. Nobody said anything. It just happened. But you had better get your child vaccinated before they go to school. But this person from another country whose child has never been vaccinated can go straight to school. No questions asked. That happened. So I don't want to hear about the science stuff when you have nothing to back it up. Just saying, lawyer up.
At 10 o'clock, controversy brewing over this documentary. It's about vaccinations and their perceived link to autism. And it has just been pulled from a Houston film fest. The decision comes after it was also removed from the Tribeca Film Festival lineup. Our Keith Garvin live now with why the film was removed from the lineup. Keith.
Well, Sarah, we're still waiting to hear from the mayor's office, but the film's producers say it was pulled because it conflicts with the city's initiatives on vaccinations. But festival organizers say they do confirm that grant money was on the line.
My oldest son, Ian, was walking and running. After the vaccine, he was no longer able to do that.
It's only had an extremely limited release, and this documentary already is stirring up controversy. The film is called Vaxxed, which explores purported links between vaccines and the rise in autism. Scheduled to appear at the 49th Annual World Fest Houston Film Festival, even after the film was pulled for eligibility reasons, its producers say the festival was pressured and threatened to not show it.
You know, the public deserves to be able to see this film if they choose to do so.
The film's researcher shared an email exchange she says is between her and a festival official. The official supposedly wrote, "After very threatening calls late yesterday from high Houston government officials, we had no choice but to drop the film. They threatened severe action against the festival if we showed it, so it is out. Their actions would have cost us more than $100,000 in grants." We spoke to the festival's founding director, who says there's no way the film was going to show.
Of course not, because we would have lost about $100,000 in sponsorship overnight.
That's because of the pressure you were receiving.
Yeah, exactly.
The film's producers believe the alleged negative response by government officials will only serve to make more people want to see it.
The documentary was born to try to get the story out there to as many people as possible.
And we have reached out to the mayor's office and are waiting for a response. In the meantime, the film's producers say that it will show at several other festivals across the country and will open at theaters nationwide.
Now, this was about 8 years ago. So this is about 2018. So this was prior to COVID, 2018. And they were trying to shut this down. They were like, we do not want the public to think. We just want them to believe whatever we say. Right? You know how Anthony Fauci would come on and say, I am the science. No, you're not. You're a human being. You are flawed and you can be wrong. And if you do not have actual data to back up what you're saying, because they don't, because they never did a study to see, well, what does life look like with a child that's completely unvaccinated, never had any type of vaccinations compared to a child that's on the full schedule. They've never done that study. Let me say this again. They've never done the study, but they keep telling us you have to do this. I'm not doing that ever. Now, I did get my children vaccinated because I was vaccinated growing up. Or, you just told, you're like, okay, let's do this. And I didn't question it. But see, the whole thing with autism wasn't really big until after my children were almost finished with their schedules. And what I noticed is that the shots had tripled since my daughter was born. She's in her 30s now. Why did they need more? She's safe. She's great. Why did they need more? Again, let's check some of these. I'm not going to play the whole documentaries because they're a few hours long, but I will play a little bit, and I'm going to send you guys the link in the repost.
I'm Del Bigtree, executive producer of An Inconvenient Study and founder and CEO of Informed Consent Action Network, ICANN. What you're about to see is one of the most important stories I've ever told. It's a story of a top infectious disease expert, a study that might have never seen the light of day, and shocking data that could change everything we think we know about childhood health. When the credits roll, I'll be back to share how you can help us deliver an inconvenient study to every corner of the globe. Thank you for being here. And now, I hope you enjoy the film.
Children struggling every day with ADHD?
Scott's allergies made it hard to keep up with his friends.
Allergic reactions from accidental food exposure.
Moderate to severe eczema.
Plaque psoriasis, rheumatoid arthritis,
food allergies.
Allergies.
Seizure.
Asthma.
Eczema.
IBS.
Lupus.
We are now the sickest country in the world.
The health of American children is in crisis.
A huge rise in chronic conditions in kids 17 and under.
More than 40% of American children now have at least one chronic health condition.
Autoimmune disease like rheumatoid arthritis, juvenile diabetes, lupus, Crohn's disease, all this IBS.
I had eczema, asthma, all put out. Allergies, stomach issues.
This is to me the one that gets me. Just a few decades ago, 1 in 10,000 children had autism. Today it's 1 in 31.
ADD, ADHD, speech delay, language delay, tics, Tourette's syndrome, narcolepsy, sleep disorders, ASD, autism.
But there's nowhere in the world that these kind of rapid increases in the incidence of disease could be genetic. Genetic change takes generations, centuries to play out.
What's really...
Yeah. So that's just the beginning of it. And I'll also attach the movie Vaxxed. But I also came across this other short.
Right. And, and there's a lot of information and more importantly, misinformation circulating online. What do you want viewers to know about the safety and effectiveness of the MMR vaccine?
I want to be clear and direct. Yes. The MMR vaccine is safe. It is effective and it has one of the strongest evidence basis of any vaccine that we have.
Okay. Here's the problem with her statement. You're making a blanket statement saying it's safe. What happens when somebody gets injured? What are you going to say? Because you can't say it's not the vaccine if they were fine before they got it. That's the problem. See, a lot of these individuals, they think, they can inject somebody with something and be like, oh, if it happens to you, you already had something going on before that. No, they didn't. They were fine. Like that woman in the video before on the newscast, she said her son was fine. The day after, he couldn't walk anymore. He was fine. And then it changed after. So when I see people making these blanket statements, I'm like, lawyer up, as you should. And people should come for you for everything that you don't have for making a statement like that, because nothing is 100% effective. Nothing. There are no guarantees anywhere for anything. Your life isn't even guaranteed. There are people that didn't wake up this morning. Period. They stopped breathing while they slept. It's over. Their life is done. Okay? Nothing is guaranteed. So before we get out of here, I just wanted to share a little something. I said, can you give me information on the CDC's role in informing the public about the MMR study in regards to higher risk of autism for Black male children? So there was a 2004 study. It examined the timing of the first MMR vaccine and autism diagnoses in a population-based sample of children in metropolitan Atlanta, because that's the headquarters for the CDC. It compared children with autism to match controls and looked at vaccination by 18, 24, and 36 months of age. The published paper reported no overall association between MMR timing and autism. The key details involves a subgroup analysis related to race, particularly African American Black boys. The study presented results in two ways. Okay. So the published paper focused race stratified results on the birth certificate subset. It did not present race specific results for the full sample in the same way. Now, there was a co-author, William W. Thompson, a CDC senior scientist, later stated in 2014 that the team omitted statistically significant findings suggesting higher autism risk among African American males who received MMR before age 36 months. He said decisions about which findings to report were made after data collection, and that he believed the final study protocol was not fully followed. The Thompson emphasized that he supports vaccination overall and does not recommend avoiding vaccinations for any group. But you have to tell people, so they have something called informed consent. We had Nuremberg trials that said you have to give people informed consent. We're not doing that anymore. We're just telling people, do this. It's fine. You'll be okay. And that's a lie. Because not everybody's fine, because we're all built differently. Okay. So it went down, asked some more questions. I said, were there any allegations of the information being suppressed or omitted from the public? Yes, there were explicit allegations and a public statement from one of the study's own authors that statistically significant findings were omitted from the published 2004 CDC paper. Why were they omitted? If they're important, they shouldn't have been omitted. People, oh, that's right, because people wouldn't have gotten it. And you wouldn't have damaged people. When I say there are people that should be sued into oblivion today for the harm that they've caused, I mean that with my whole chest. I'm just saying. Okay. And this is the statement from William Thompson. It says, I regret that my co-authors and I omitted statistically significant information in our 2004 article published in the journal Pediatrics. The omitted data suggested that African American males who received the MMR vaccine before age 36 months were at increased risk of autism. And all mothers would have had to do is say, okay, is it okay if I wait till my child is 4 or 5 and then still spread these out? Will my child still be okay? The children would have been better. If it's all right, if the information is saying, hey, there's a particular set at risk, those parents should have at least been told so they could have made an informed decision. Did they? No. They were told, if you don't do this, you're a bad parent. You have to do this. It's disgusting. So decisions were made regarding which findings to report after the data were collected. And I believe that the final study protocol was not followed. Okay. So I said, can you give me a list of the ingredients in the MMR vaccine, the link to the patent, because I want to know where the patent is, because all of these vaccines have patents and they're worth billions of dollars. So is the CDC supposed to be there for health reasons, or is it there to just make patents that make them billions of dollars? What are you there for? What is the reason? Because you're failing. And it's been a failure, in my opinion, since its existence, because the only thing that it's been there to do is to make patents and put out vaccine information that could be true or false, right? And just make money and use the government as cover to do it. So they're protected. It's gross. You're a failure as an organization, as an agency. And I think it should be disbanded, dismantled, and everybody be prosecuted for anything that you did to harm the American people, period. So here's the accurate information on the official U.S. prescribing information for the 2 MMR vaccines currently available in the United States. Okay, so here's some of the dosages, 0.5 milliliters, and then some of the active ingredients is it's got a chicken embryo cell culture. It's got a live mumps virus. It's got a live measles virus. It has a live rubella virus. And again, on the chicken embryos, and this one uses a human diploid lung fibroblast. And here are some of the inactive ingredients: xylitol, sucrose, hydrolyzed gelatin, recombinant human albumin, fetal bovine serum. So why is there fetal stuff in here? Why is there human stuff in here? Yeah, these are just some of the ingredients, right? And there's other buffer and media ingredients in neomycin. There's no preservative, including no thimerosal. Sorry to mispronounce that, but the thimerosal used to be in some of the vaccines. I think they've gotten some of that stuff removed, which is a good thing. So you've got the active, the inactive, and then the other ones. And now the patent for this, they were granted a patent in the late 70s, early 80s, and it expired in the early 2000s. No current active core composition of the MMR2 vaccine itself appear in recent patent landscape analysis. Merck may hold secondary patents related to specific manufacturing improvements. The warning label, because I was like, okay, what does the warning label look like? So here's some of them. Hypersensitivity to any component of the vaccine, including gelatin, or history of anaphylaxis or neomycin. Okay. Does anybody see these? See, when they give you the fact sheet, they just tell you, hey, you might get a fever, you might, this might happen, but you don't see the warning label. These are warnings. Severe immune suppression. Okay. I thought this was supposed to help your immune system. Moderate or severe febrile illness, active unrelated tuberculosis. If you're pregnant, obviously you should avoid some of these warnings and precautions. Include risk of fever, febrile seizures. You could get seizures with this. Potential for hypersensitivity reaction in individuals with a history of a severe egg allergy. And would you know until you got it? You wouldn't, right? Transient thrombocytopenia, long word, sorry. Or people with a history of it. Let's see, immune competence. If there is a family history of congenital or hereditary immune deficiency, right? Immune globulins or other blood products may interfere with the response if given concurrently. Temporary depression of tubular-selin skin test sensitivity. So these are things, I've never seen these things. They don't warn you. They just give you a fact sheet that says, oh, you might get a fever. If you don't feel good, come and see us. Because if people actually knew what's on the warning labels, they wouldn't give their children these things, because they'd be like, I don't know if my child's going to have the reaction once they take this. Because see, that's called informed consent. And we don't have it in this country. And I'm demanding that we do, especially as parents, grandparents, anybody in this field, taking care of little people. But yes, today, that is our show, our broadcast for Tell It All Tuesday. I will be rebroadcasting the show later in this week. I've got to visit some family because they're a little bit under the weather. So I'm going to be checking them out and going to see them. So Thank you guys for always joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. I really appreciate it. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. We are live on X, YouTube, and Facebook. So remember, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you in the next one.